So, you want to be a philosopher, eh? Well, it's rather a difficult thing to become, and takes a lifetime in deep contemplation about being and reality before one is called a philosopher. However, the most important thinkers throughout history have lived their lives as an example, and if one wants to come close to attaining their level of insight about the nature of the universe, then one must attempt to follow their teachings and learn from their immense wisdom. If this sounds like the life for you, then here is a comprehensive guide on how to become a philosopher. Diogenes was an ancient Greek philosopher and founded the philosophy known as Cynicism, which comes from the Greek word for dog-like. He lived in a wine barrel on the streets of Athens, and his only possessions were his clothes. Because he chose to be homeless, Diogenes had no problem relieving himself in the street, and was also known to masturbate in public. He carried a lantern around during the day and said that he was looking for an honest man, but that he only found frauds and hypocrites. Perhaps the most famous encounter that Diogenes had was with Alexander the Great. When he found Diogenes looking through a rubbish heap and asked what he was doing, Diogenes replied that he was looking for the bones of his father, King Philip II, but that he could not distinguish them from those of a slave. Lessons to be learned here: wank in the street, be antisocial, and insult political leaders to their face. Nietzsche was a German philosopher who is most well known for his writings about nihilism and his impressive moustache. However, this moustache apparently scared women at the time, and through a combination of this and a massive inferiority complex, he never married, although he did manage once to contract syphilis in a brothel while he was still a college student. Once, Nietzsche was leaving the house he was staying at in Italy, and saw a cab driver whipping a horse that wasn't moving. He ran over to the horse and threw his hands around its neck, and then burst into tears before collapsing in the street. He suffered a complete mental breakdown, upon which he returned to his boarding house and danced around naked. He believed he was a reincarnation of various historical figures like Jesus, Napoleon and Buddha, before his family decided to put him into an insane asylum where he died 11 years later. Lessons to be learned here: grow a massive moustache, contract syphilis, and be Jesus. Pythagoras was an ancient Greek mathematician and was actually the leader of a cult that worshipped numbers. Each time a new mathematical problem was solved, he sacrificed an animal to the gods. His followers believed that Pythagoras had superpowers, that he could control animals with his voice and write words on the surface of the moon. Pythagoras was also said to have a golden thigh that he showed off at the Olympic Games, and if someone doubted that he was divine, he would simply show them his thigh and they would be converted. He also forbade his followers to eat beans because they contained the souls of the dead. Some accounts say that he died because a mob chased him to the edge of a bean field. Not wanting to trample over the beans, Pythagoras stood there until the mob caught up with him, and he was then killed. Lessons to be learned here: worship numbers, gym until you have golden thighs, and beans. Wittgenstein was an Austrian philosopher who wrote about logic, language, and mathematics. After writing his first book, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, Wittgenstein largely gave up on philosophy, as he decided all further philosophy was just language problems, and became a physically abusive schoolteacher instead. He designed his own house with his brother, but when the house was completed, Wittgenstein became irritated that one of the ceilings was 3 centimeters too low, and he demanded that the issue be fixed, which it was. One entertaining theory goes that Hitler's hatred of Jewish people was because of Wittgenstein, as they went to the same Austrian school. While he was a teacher at Cambridge University, some suggest that Wittgenstein was part of an undercover spy ring that helped with cracking the Enigma code that then led to the downfall of Hitler. Lessons to be learned here: physically abuse children, be overly anal about ceiling height, and piss off Hitler. Finally, Sartre was a French philosopher, most well known for his existentialism and phenomenology. He was famous for having an open relationship with another existentialist philosopher, de Beauvoir, in which he had many other partners, but she didn't. One of his mistresses was an Algerian woman who he later adopted as a daughter in 1965. Sartre was well known for experimenting with mescaline and amphetamines during his youth, and one particularly intense trip resulted in him hallucinating that crabs were following him for years afterwards. He described himself as ugly, was a chain smoker, and died of lung disease. 50,000 people accompanied his coffin at his funeral, and they passed by all the spots where Sartre sat and smoked on the banks of the Seine. Lessons to be learned here: smoke until it kills you, do enough drugs so that you're constantly tripping balls, and keep one eye on the philosophy and one on the pussy.